The search is on for two killers who broke out of a maximum security prison in upstate New York.
More than 1,000 searchers are starting day 21 of the manhunt.
Both convicted murderers are considered to be very dangerous.
Breaking news, manhunt over. The remaining fugitive David Sweat shot and captured in northern New York after more than 3 weeks on the run.
You remember that story? I do. The 2015 manhunt for escaped inmates Richard Matt and David Sweat made headlines all across the country. And after weeks on the run, Matt was killed by a Border Patrol tactical team. Sweat was caught 2 days later. The search cost New York State more than $23 million. And now the story is being told in a 7-part series on Showtime, a division of CBS. It is called Escape at Dannemora.
Emmy Award-winner Ben Stiller executive produces and directs the series. Oscar-winning actress Patricia Arquette plays former prison employee Joyce Mitchell, who helped the inmates escape. In this clip from the premiere, Mitchell is questioned by investigators.
No one came to ask me. That's all I've been doing is trying to help.
When you spoke to the state police, you asked the detectives 6 times whether the inmates had been captured.
No, of course I did.
Yeah, you want them to be caught, right?
That's all anybody wants.
Well, not everybody. I mean, some people like to see them killed.
Well,
Yeah.
if they're gonna hurt anybody, they should be killed.
Yeah, but better for you if they die.
What is it? What does that mean?
Wouldn't it be convenient to be the only person who lives to tell the story?
Patricia Arquette and Ben Stiller are joining us now. That was great.
That was a good tease clip, huh?
Yeah. Man. Patricia, let's start with you because everybody who's watched this is like, wait a minute, how did she become that person? You look a lot different.
Yeah, well, we had these gigantic contact lenses, these teeth, so you had an underbite, and these wigs, and
you put on 40 pounds, right?
Yeah, and gained some weight.
That little thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Patricia totally, just went for it, and I think as an actress, she doesn't worry about anything other than trying to be the character and not worrying about being likable or in any way having to draw the audience in. She trusts, this is my feeling about you as an actress, that you just trust that if you're a human being and you're finding, who that person is inside, that people will then, see that.
And she was such a fascinating figure, right? Tilly, because here she was on the inside and not only having a relationship, a sexual relationship, but was helping them, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was the civilian supervisor in the tailor shop, and she was overseeing 40 inmates who were making uniforms for a company. It's a real company called Corecraft. And so, yeah, she was. The dynamic there is pretty obvious, and she was being inappropriate with at least a couple of inmates.
To say the least.
It's inappropriate.
It was pretty inappropriate.
Are you suggesting prison reform of some kind?
It was pretty inappropriate, some of those things, especially when I was watching with my 16-year-old stepson. But sometimes, when you watch a character like yours, you go back to, I know that actress, that's Patricia Arquette. I never once thought that. You became Tilly.
Well, I had a couple weird experiences on the set. I knew David Morse. We'd done a movie together. And I said hi to him early when I first got to work for the makeup test. And then later, when I had all my makeup on, I was outside, and he was talking to somebody, and I started chiming in. And he just was looking at me like, he just thought I was some crazy lady who was talking to him. And it happened to with Benicio, too. Mm-hmm. They were like, David didn't know that was you.
Wow.
And I sat down next to Benicio during the makeup test. He's like, oh my God, I didn't know that was you.
Well, you became Tilly.
Yeah.
Was it important for you to find anything sympathetic about her character?
You know what? I feel like, especially with actresses, we're always expecting people to be empathetic. Oftentimes our parts are like, how do you make this empathetic? And I just don't care about that.
Yeah.
It's like, I think, like Ben said, if you just ground it in what this person really feels, there's human components I think we can all understand with each other.
Ben, what did you learn from visiting David Sweat in prison?
A lot about the details of the escape. We had 2 separate visits. You met him also. But, a lot about the details of the escape, his relationship with Richard Matt, who he escaped with. Which was kind of, it's an interesting relationship because they weren't necessarily friends, but Matt taught Sweat how to paint in prison, right. And then they both had this mutual goal of wanting to get out. And then when they got out together, their personalities were pretty different, and so I learned a little bit about the dynamic between the two of them. I think there was a friendship of some type between them that developed, though.
As I understand it, you passed on it first, but then went back to it after the Inspector General report?
Yeah, at first there just wasn't enough information about what really happened, and that was what was interesting to me, was how does something like this happen in 2015? In this day and age, these two guys are able to saw their way out of their cells. And when the Inspector General report came out, it had all these great details. It was like a 160-page novel almost, so that became our source material for the show.
And watching the series, you really learn about the intricacies inside of a prison, right? And the sort of level of hierarchies, not just among the prisoners, but among the guards and the relationship.
It's such an intense place. I mean, we shot in several different prisons, and it's such a pressure cooker. I mean, it's dangerous for the inmates, it's dangerous for the guards. There's a different whole survival mechanism at play.
A different ecosystem.
And this also takes place in a community, which we were all, the name of which everybody was repeating for several days, but you went and you were there. What was the community's relationship with this story and the prison and the prisoners?
I think it's complicated because Dannemora, the town, is a very small town. The prison is almost bigger than the town. And yeah, the media descended when the escape happened for about a month and then left. And then we came back a couple of years later and were there. And I think, the people there were concerned about being portrayed just as, this place where these, the people, this prison screwed up. And the reality is that, there are a lot of things that contributed to what happened in terms of just the dynamic that's there from this prison being there for over 100 years. And, the complacency that happened was based in just, the fact that this place has been there that long and generations of people have done things the same way for years and years. And that's a bigger question about the prison system in the U.S. So I think they wanted us to make sure that we told a story that showed the whole, so the whole spectrum.
Patricia, can I ask you about the Oscar when you won in 2014 and you gave that passionate speech about women's equality and equal pay? Have you seen things change?
I'm excited the last couple of years, like on our show, to have a female boom operator, to have a female DP. I'm seeing on sets a lot more females in the crew and throughout, and a lot more women writing. And also, I mean, when I gave that speech, it wasn't necessarily about Hollywood per se.
Yeah.
So California, we've passed fair pay laws. Women have come up to me and say, I got a $10,000 check because my boss told me they were not paying me equally. And then I got so excited, and then I got so sad because I realized this has been happening for years, and that impacts my Social Security. And it's estimated that if we paid women equally, half the child poverty in America would be eradicated overnight.
Well, it was true. It was clear it was an important issue for you. It came from the heart, and it resonated with everyone, and something we're still talking about today.
Well, unfortunately, the states that most have the largest pay gap for women have no legislation pending whatsoever to change it.
Well, we'd love to have you back to talk about that issue.
Thank you.
Yeah, and congratulations on this series. Nice to meet both of you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thanks.
Escape from Dannemora premieres Sunday night on Showtime. And today on CBS This Morning's podcast, we talked to journalist Chelsea Rose Marcius, who covered the Dannemora prison break and manhunt for the New York Daily News. Now she has a new book about what happened. Wild Escape features information she learned from interviews with David Sweat and Joyce Mitchell. Yeah, you should listen to it on your way out. You can hear the podcast on Apple's podcast app and all major audio platforms. It's a great podcast.